We are on. Ben, it's good to see you.
It is good to see you.
Wow, what a week.
Oh my gosh. Rosh Hashanah.
Rosh Hashanah. You had football during Rosh Hashanah. I was trying to stay focused on the day at hand and not think about football, not think about what was happening with the Broncos. And it was tough, but, I persevered. How are you doing, Ben, after week 2? We're now
on
week 2. Tell me, how are you doing?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, it was amazing seeing you finally after, my goodness, like 6 months, for Rosh Hashanah dinner. So that was amazing. And then of course, the Rosh Hashanah weekend and just in general now with the football season back, man, I am exhausted because just the amount of time that goes in to keeping up with football is just a very large amount of time. And whoops.
No, you're good.
Sorry about that. Yeah. See, that was just another game that I was in the middle of catching up on, and it's really hard to just keep up with everything because, if there's college on Saturday, and if you don't watch that, if you're observing Shabbos or the high holidays or whatever, then you have to pre-record that and then make time to go back and watch it then after the fact. And then, so that's probably like, a good 10 hours right there. And then you have the NFL Sunday. And if you're keeping up with all those games and, that's a good, probably another 20 hours, and you add it all up and it really comes to a very large number. And, if you think about it, all those hours of time that you were doing other stuff, whether it's, tending to children or your job or personal hygiene, something's got to give. And it just makes it hard. And it's always tough at the beginning of the season, just getting used to that.
Yeah, we're going from no football, no sports to NFL season. Right? Something's got to give. Like you said, personal hygiene, children, whatever it is, something has to give to make time for the football. And especially when football falls out, it's going to be a number of weeks like this on Yom Tov, on Rosh Hashanah, and 2 weeks is going to be on Sukkot, then on Simchas Torah. It's like, we're going to have to go back to the film and watch all the games and analyze and dissect the plays. And that's, like you said, we're talking 20 hours, 30 hours of film time, 40 hours per week.
Right.
So it's tough. It's tough.
It is. And it's heightened now because, it's not just doing it for ourselves, but now it's doing it for all of our viewers too, and keeping up with it and keeping it. So I don't know. I don't know how you do it. I don't know. It's hard enough for it, but
Ben, I think all the viewers right now can tell how exhausted we look, and it's because we've just been breaking down the film and making up time. It's tough, but someone's got to do it. I'm glad that we're the ones, kind of following on the sword for that. Someone's got to do it, and I'm glad.
Right. Yeah, I just taking time out to do this now. It's pausing some game film, but it's a duty, but it's also an honor and a pleasure.
Yes,
to do it with you, especially. So
appreciate that. No, beautiful, amazing. So we're going to keep it a little bit briefer in this episode this week, but one thing I wanted to share to bring in some Judaism into football. There's so many lessons from this week of football that have so much to do with this time of year and with Judaism. For one, for those who see me right now, and I look a little more tired than usual. So it's not just because I've been breaking down the film, like you said, for hours after hours after hours, but it's also because I'm in the middle of a fast. Right now, we're in the Tzom Gedalia, the fast of Gedalia. Gedalia ben Achikam, Gedalia the son of Achikam, who was a governor appointed by the king of Babylonia to lead the Jewish people, the remnant who stayed back in Israel after the destruction of the first temple. And most of the Jews went into Babylonia, into exile. So Gedalia was our governor. He was a righteous man. He was a tremendous man. And sure enough, there was a plot, and someone named Yishmael ben Netaniah assassinated him. He felt like he should have been the leader. He came from the tribe of Yehuda. He should have been the leader. And Gedaliah was assassinated. He didn't observe the warning signs, and he was assassinated. And today, over 2,000 years later, we're observing this as a day of mourning. I'm not eating all day, haven't drank all day, and it's a day that we observe and we cry over this day, this terrible tragedy that Gedaliah died and he was assassinated. And the question is, why exactly is that such a travesty that we're mourning it 2,000 years later through fasting? Like throughout our history, we've had a lot of tragedies, and we don't always have days of fasting over it, right? So I think perhaps the explanation is that he represented, right, the last the last chance, potentially, the last chance that Jews could remain in Israel during that first exile. And, there were still Jews there, and he was governing them. And as soon as he was exiled, it really spelled the end, and there was nothing left really after that, for those years. And it reminds me, just to bring it into football, and we say lahavdil, like I don't mean to make light of this, but just to help us understand like what it meant, right? So it was like, what was the example that I was thinking of that had to do with football? It's kind of like, the Broncos apparently yesterday, I didn't even get through all the video yet, but they were driving at the end of the game. There was hope, right? And everything was great. And then the Steelers just blitzed, everyone. And on fourth down, when we're driving, could have scored a touchdown to win the game. Driscoll, took another sack. And it kind of like that. It's like there's still that remnant of hope. There's still, 2 seconds left in the Nuggets game. You think we got this, or even winning, right? And if we win that game, there's still a series. There's still hope of a series. And then Anthony Davis just rips out our heart and just twists it apart, and then just obliterates our poor heart, right? There was hope, and then there was no hope anymore. And then, not to make light of the tragedy with Gedaliah, but I think sometimes these sports metaphors can help us understand different things in life and in Judaism. So that, I think, we're mourning, we're fasting. I'm going another like 3 hours still, but that's why we're doing it. It really represented kind of the squashing of that last hope that we had. So
yeah, and that's the beauty of sports is that they really do serve as such a metaphor for so much in life. I mean, they're virtually anything, even as you just described, even when it seems like there's really no relation in sports, we can more or less find some way to relate it to sports, that sports can serve as that metaphor for helping us get through stuff, to find inspiration. It really relates to life in one way or another, even when it doesn't seem like it does on the surface. Yeah.
100%. We're going to get to that soon with my fantasy week in fantasy sports. We'll elaborate on that a little bit. But first, why don't you tell me how did the Baltimore Ravens do this week? After just obliterating me last week, how did it go for you this week?
Right. Well, if I could just real quickly, while we were on the topic of mourning, I feel like it's also, it would be an appropriate time to just mention the very difficult passing of an icon a Jewish icon in Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who passed, on Friday, either right before Rosh Hashanah, or either right before or during right when Rosh Hashanah just kicked off. And, for us here in Mountain Time, it's, really difficult way to begin the new year, to begin the holiday, not the news you want to hear when you're getting ready to start the new year. But she was an incredible icon and someone who brought so much positive change to the world, both for gender equality and as a Supreme Court justice. And and does this have anything to do with football necessarily? No, not necessarily. But you know what? Actually, on second thought, maybe it kind of does, actually, because, for the first time ever this season, the Denver Broncos have a female coach on their staff, Emily Zahler, and there are a number of female coaches on different NFL teams across the league. And it's not only in football, too. You see it in basketball. NBA, a name like Becky Hammon comes to mind. in that idea of leveling the playing field and creating opportunities, even in sports and in coaching and in traditionally men's sports like football, coaching opportunities for women. I think, Ruth Bader Ginsburg either had, played a role in that causal chain in allowing for these opportunities to happen. So definitely just wanted to take a quick moment to commemorate RBG.
Beautiful. The memory should be a blessing. And today, actually, as well, is the yahrzeit of my grandmother. So the learning we could do today as well could be in her merit as well. So yeah, a lot of things, and obviously she's a special woman and really paved the way for so many others, and we owe her a lot of gratitude. Okay.
So getting back to so now
the transition now back to the world of
the Baltimore Ravens.
fantasy football.
I'm checking. So how did the Baltimore Ravens fantasy team do? And it pains me to say it, but this week I get the so-called Sacco Trophy for doing the absolute worst. I got absolutely obliterated by a ridiculous 93 points. I don't know if this is a record, but my strategy of going all in on one team completely blew up in my face this week.
It only works against me.
Right. Yeah, Danny, it only works against you for some reason. I don't know why. If we had played each other this week, you would have smoked me. So, finished dead last this week. So, not very proud of that. It's a good thing. The possibility of seeing the running of Moshiach is not determined by this week alone, because and I would definitely not be it.
Yeah.
But that's okay. It just goes to the greater narrative of rising from the ashes as the season unfolds. But you, on the other hand, you did pretty well. Congratulations.
Yeah.
I'm looking here. So I mean, it's a close one. It's a close one. So you got closer, right? Because I'm looking at week 2 here. And looks like Brandon just squeaked out a victory against you, but it was a close match. It looks like about an 8-point difference. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was looking at a different league where I won by 65. You're right. I lost.
Yeah, man. That polyligas lifestyle. It just all types of confusion, man.
Let me, if I may, just get into some life lessons from this fantasy league for myself. It's one of those things this week. I lost in 3 leagues. I won in 1. And sometimes it's just like these little things that you could beat yourself up over. If I would have started Noah Fant like I should have instead of Rob Gronkowski, then instead of losing in 1 league by 7 points, I win by 7 points. Okay? And then in another league, if I do any one of the following moves, okay? I start Miles Sanders running back, or Kareem Hunt at running back, or Leonard Fournette at running back instead of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I win. Any of those decisions, and I win. So instead of going another week 1-3 in fantasy football, I'm instead a solid 3-1, all because of one little move. It ruined everything. And I think the valuable life lesson in this case is that you can't live in the past, right? Once you've set that lineup. Once the game starts, you can't second guess yourself. You can't keep looking back in the past. It's what's done is done, and you did your best, and now it happened already. So yes, you can learn the lessons from the past and apply them to the future. But if you're going to just dwell on the past and what you should have done, you're going to live a life of misery, both in fantasy football and in real life. So I think, this time of year, especially as we're coming up before Rosh Hashanah, before Yom Kippur, yes, we need to do tshuva. We have to repent and fix the things that we messed up in the past. But you can't dwell on the past only, and you can't just be miserable over what you've done. There has to be a plan to learn from the past and to improve yourself, but not to just cry and be miserable over decisions you made in the past. That's not enough, right? If that's all you do, you're going to live a life of misery. You have to understand that hopefully you did your best and it wasn't good enough, and then you can move forward, right? And that's exactly my fantasy week. It's any one of these decisions, and I'm now sitting at 3-1 this week instead of 1-3 again for the second week in a row. And it's just to me that's just a powerful lesson. I don't know. You cannot dwell. I know, Ben, you've been beating yourself up over last year in our league. One decision, and maybe you win the ship. Instead you don't even make the playoffs. It's easy to just lose sleep over that and to keep thinking back to that. But if you do, how are you going to move on? How do you draft that next league? It's hard. It's hard. So, yeah, that's my lesson. I think it's important. You can't dwell on the past. I made some mistakes. I'm going to fix them for next week. And I think that's an important life lesson.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. With that one choice between me winning the championship and not making the playoffs, I had to live with that the entire offseason. And, just think about how long an off season that was. And just being like, why did I not pick this other player? And then dreaming about that and being like, and then sometimes having a dream where alternatively I did pick the other player and I won the championship. And then I wake up and I realize, oh no, it was all a dream. I picked the wrong player and finished only 5th.
You're right.
I know. But
I feel you, man. And I'm just saying, you just can't beat yourself up over it. You
right.
have to look forward to the next week.
Right. But that's the season, makes us do that. You just, when the game ends, you just have to turn the page. Even more so in baseball. Imagine baseball where you have all those games and you just have to go on to the next one. At least in football, you have a little bit of time to let it sink in between games. But yeah, still, you have to just turn the page and as the coach is saying, don't let one loss turn into 2 or 3.
Right.
And I think the other lesson from that, as you just described, is that how small the margin between winning and losing can be. How you never know exactly where that tipping point is, and you never know, what's going to be the difference between going 1-3 and 3-1. And so we just have to give it everything we can and hope that that's enough. But we never know. We never know what that tipping point is. We never know. It's like they say with mitzvahs, right? You never know which one is going to be.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's literally a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. It says, treat all mitzvahs equal, because you don't know the value of each mitzvah in God's eyes. You don't know, something I think is small might be a game changer for me, or for the world. So it's the same exact thing. Just fantasy football week to week and mitzvahs. 100%. You nailed it.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. So, it's nuts how we never know, but all we can do is, just set our lineups and let the chips fall where they may. A quick shout out to a couple of to our league, man. So as I mentioned, Dove totally tore it up. This week by far the highest point total in our league. There's a good Avrami is in a really tight matchup, a really interesting matchup. It looks like with Israel. And that's still going on. That's going to come down, it looks like, to this Monday night game. And we got Brad and Ari's teams in a deadlock, very close matchup, literally within a point of each other going into this Monday night game. So our league has some incredible matchups going on that are coming down to this Monday night. And my goodness, I feel like we should be charging admission so the fans can watch these matchups unfold, because these are some pretty exciting matchups that are coming down to the end.
100%. You nailed it again. Anyone out there watching on Facebook, we will offer you the ability to kind of peer in on our league and just follow the stats as the scores of the games fluctuate back and forth. But right. I love that. That brings me to the next and final point.
Yeah. We'll charge admission, but not as much for Broncos games. So that'll be the good news.
Yes, brutal. Yes. So that brings me to the next point. First of all, again, just a crazy week of just wild injuries. All these players should have refuah shlemas. They should have full, complete recovery soon. Christian McCaffrey is out for a bit. Saquon Barkley out for this season. Cortland Sutton, our star wide receiver for the Broncos, out for the year, torn ACL. Drew Lock out for a bunch of weeks. TJ Watt, I think, is out. A whole bunch of players. I probably missed a bunch as well. It just goes to show
the Niners players, my goodness, Garoppolo, Mostert, Bosa.
You just have to be ready when it's your opportunity, when it's your shot, because all these now backups are going to have chances to shine. And And you never know, right? We plan for things. You plan to have these guys as your quarterback, for your season, and it just doesn't work out, right? So you have to just understand the way it works. But they should all have quick recoveries. And just finally, Ben, tonight's game, right? You got the Saints Raiders. You're now winning our head-to-head matchup 2-0. You nailed both predictions on the head. I missed last week. And then we're going to come and revisit the Broncos season prediction. I changed my mind from the original 10-6 prediction. I'd like to recant on that. What do you got tonight, first of all, for the Raiders Saints?
Well, I'm always high on the Saints. I'm a big believer in the Saints. I think you know that they could have won the Super Bowl any of these last 3 seasons. I mean, it took just out of character or freak occurrences to prevent them from winning the Super Bowl these last 3 years.
Right.
And so I think eventually, luck is going to favor the Saints. They just can't have just such bad luck like this. So I think I'm high on the Saints. I think the Saints are for real. They showed it in Week 1 this season, and I think they are going to win tonight and continue. As long as Drew Brees is their quarterback, as long as they have great players like Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas playing for them, their Swiss Army knife of a backup in Taysom Hill. As long as they have all these good players, they're going to be fine. So I'm predicting the Saints tonight to win. Do you want to score specifically?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Goodness. I'm going to go. It's always tough picking these scores. I'm going to go Saints 35, Raiders 24. 35-24 Saints.
Okay. Even though Michael Thomas, I believe, is out tonight, if I'm not mistaken, my sources are
telling
me.
Okay, so you know what? Drew Brees can get the ball to anyone, so I'll stick with that. Anyway. Okay, I'll stick with that score.
I too have the Saints winning 27-17, despite the fact again that Thomas is out. And then just to get to the Broncos prediction, the updated after 2 weeks of play, I changed my 10-6 and I'm turning that into a 6-10. I believe they will go 6-10 with all the injuries and the overall just lousiness. What do you got? You said 8-8. You keeping it 8-8?
So I think my 8-8 may have been a little optimistic also. So I think actually 6-10 is actually sounding more like it because they're still going to have to. So that's too. They're still going to have to play the Chiefs twice. That's not looking good. The Raiders and Chargers, they're looking pretty decent.
Yeah, looking good.
And so yeah, I'm thinking 6-10 may actually, even that may be optimistic. Actually, they may be. I don't want to say the season's out on them yet. I don't. But I think probably I'm tending to agree with you. 6-10. I may revise mine. I'm going to revise it down to more like a 6-10 now, especially if Drew Lock is going to miss some time. Yeah, I think because even that optimism that we had was based on Drew Lock being healthy and playing for them and building off his 4-1 record from last season. Yeah. So if he's not, then I'm not as optimistic. I'm a fan of Jeff Driscoll, by the way, though. I remember, I remember when he was in college, actually, when he was with the Florida Gators, and he was splitting time at quarterback with Jacoby Brissett. Who is now the Indianapolis Colts quarterback. So you had Driscoll and Brissett splitting time at UF for a little bit, and then eventually each of them transferred to other schools.
They're backing up Phillip Rivers currently, though. So Driscoll.
That's right. He is backing up Phillip Rivers. That's right. Yeah, he was the starter last year. Right. Last year. Cool. That's true. But yeah, so I like Jeff Driscoll. But yeah, I'm gonna agree with you now. Probably 6-10.
Cool. Yes. Amazing. Okay, so that does it. Thank you all for joining us. Again, a lot of great wisdom, a lot of great life lessons here from the world of sports. And Ben, always enlightening. Thank you so much. And I'll see you next week.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. And see you next week.
Signing off. All right.